Woman discovers that her husband is a spy, but what happens next will leave her shocked. Angela's hands trembled as she held the forged passports, the hidden safe's door still ajar. The attic's musty air clung to her skin, dust motes dancing in the thin beam of her flashlight. She'd stumbled upon the safe while organizing a task meant to distract her from John's latest business trip. Now, reality tilted on its axis. She spread the documents across the worn floorboards, her mind racing. Passports with John's face but different names, maps dotted with cryptic symbols, notes scrolled in a code she couldn't decipher. Angela's throat tightened as she traced a familiar route on one of the maps. The same path John had described for his last conference in Berlin. "Oh God," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. "Who are you, John?" Her thoughts were a whirlwind. The man she thought she knew, the man she'd built her life with, had been living in shadows. Her heart pounded, her mind reeling with the implications. She had to know more. She grabbed her phone, her hands shaking, as she snapped photos of each document, the flash illuminating the attic in harsh bursts. Cobwebs and forgotten relics of their life together flickered in the stark light, and a chilling realization settled over her. Everything she thought she knew about her husband was a lie. Her breath quickened as she forced herself to think. Confronting John was out of the question, not until she understood more. Angela carefully replaced each item in the safe, memorizing their exact positions before she closed the door. A chill ran down her spine as she descended the attic stairs, the house feeling alien, full of secrets and shadows. The weight of her discovery felt suffocating. Angela needed help, someone with skills beyond her own. She thought of Karen, her tech-savvy neighbor, who had always been friendly, maybe too friendly at times, but Karen's expertise could prove invaluable. Angela paced her kitchen, rehearsing her story. A surprise for John, some research help, nothing suspicious. She had to act normal. Her palms were slick with sweat as she finally worked up the courage to knock on Karen's door. Karen answered the second knock, her grin faltering as she took in Emily's drawn face. "Are you okay?" Karen asked, concern flashing in her eyes. "I'm fine," Angela lied, forcing a smile. "I just need a favor. It's for John." Inside Karen's cluttered home office, Angela's carefully constructed story began to unravel. Karen's sharp eyes zeroed in on the tension in Angela's shoulders, the way her fingers tapped nervously against her thigh. "Spill it," Karen said, leaning back in her chair. "This isn't about a surprise party." Angela hesitated, then pulled out her phone. "I found something," she admitted, "and I need your help to figure out what it means." Karen's eyebrows shot up as Emily scrolled through the photos. "Holy," she breathed. "Are these real?" "I think so," Angela said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can you, I don't know, decode any of this?" Karen's fingers flew across her keyboard, her expression growing more serious with each passing minute. Angela watched a knot form in her stomach as lines of incomprehensible text scrolled across the screen. "This is some heavy-duty encryption," Karen muttered. "But yeah, I think I can crack it. Give me a few days." Angela nodded, relief warring with a growing sense of dread. "Thank you," she said, her voice tight. "I owe you big time." "You owe me answers when this is done," Karen replied, her eyes never leaving the screen. "Be careful, though. Whatever this is, it's not small potatoes." The next few days passed in a haze of anxiety and sleepless nights. Angela jumped at every sound, convinced John would somehow materialize and demand answers. She threw herself into work, churning out designs with feverish intensity while her mind spun in circles. By the third day, Karen called. "I've got something," Karen said, her voice tight. "You need to see this." Angela's heart skipped a beat as she raced next door, her chest tight. Karen's office was a mess of energy drink cans and crumpled papers, her eyes ringed with dark circles. "I managed to decode some of it," Karen said, without preamble. "This is serious. There's mention of a warehouse, coordinates, something about a drop happening soon." Angela's blood ran cold. She leaned in as Karen pointed to a map on her second monitor. "Here," Karen said, tapping the screen. "It's not far, maybe an hour's drive, but—" "Don't finish that sentence," Angela cut her off. "I have to go. I need to know what John's involved in." Karen's face creased with worry. "At least let me help. I can disable their security cameras, give you a window to get in and out." Angela nodded, gratitude swelling up alongside the fear. "Okay, let's do this." The next day was a blur of preparation. Angela sketched out the warehouse layout based on satellite images, marking potential entry points and hiding spots. She practiced moving silently through her house, wincing at every creak of the floorboards. As night fell, she donned her makeshift spy gear: black hoodie, gloves, small flashlight. She caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror and barely recognized the determined woman staring back. The drive to the warehouse felt endless. Angela's hands clenched the steering wheel, her mind racing through every possible scenario. By the time she pulled into a shadowy spot near the building, her nerves were frayed to the breaking point. "Security cameras are disabled," Karen's voice crackled through the earpiece. "You've got 20 minutes, Max." Angela took a deep breath and slipped out of the car. The warehouse loomed before her, a hulking shape against the starless sky. She ghosted along the perimeter, finding the side door Karen had unlocked remotely. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of metal and oil. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing towering shelves and mysterious crates. She moved cautiously, ears straining for any sound of movement. A murmur of voices sent her diving behind a stack of pallets. Angela's heart thudded in her chest as she strained to hear, trying to make sense of what was happening. The conversation seemed important, urgent. She peered out, squinting through the dim light. Two men were gathered around a large crate, speaking in low, clipped tones. She couldn't understand their language, but the tension in their voices was unmistakable. Suddenly, the voices stopped, and Emily froze. From the shadows emerged John, his face a mask of calm professionalism. He was speaking to the two men, his voice deep and commanding. "Make sure the shipment is secure," John said. "We can't afford any mistakes." Angela's breath caught in her throat. John? Here? It couldn't be. He had lied to her. Again. He wasn't at a conference. He wasn't at a business meeting. He was part of something much darker, something she could never have imagined. The men nodded and started packing up the crates. Emily's mind raced. What was this? What was John involved in? She couldn't stand it any longer. She had to get closer. Quietly, she crept along the wall, her flashlight flickering as she moved toward the group. She hid behind a shelf, peering out at the scene unfolding in front of her. John pulled something from the crate, a sleek black device that looked out of place among the crates of supplies. He handed it to one of the men, who slipped it into his bag with a practiced motion. Angela's blood ran cold. The device, it wasn't just tech. It was something dangerous, something she didn't understand. Just then, the door to the warehouse crashed open, and a group of new figures entered, more men, dressed in dark suits. John straightened, his eyes hardening.
"Stay alert," he barked at the men around him. "We don't want any surprises." Angela's heart hammered in her chest. This was bigger than she thought. John wasn't just a spy. He was part of something much more sinister, a network of people involved in covert operations and illicit deals. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket. "Get out of there now," Karen's message read. Panic surged through Angela. She couldn't afford to stay any longer. She had to leave, now. With her heart pounding in her ears, she turned and bolted for the back of the warehouse. Her feet echoed on the concrete floor, but she didn't dare look back. When she reached the door, she pulled it open and dashed outside. The cool night air was a welcome relief, but her heart was still in her throat. She ran to her car, throwing herself inside and starting the engine. The drive back home was a blur. Her mind was spinning. John, the warehouse, the dangerous men, her entire world had just shifted. She couldn't go back to the life she had known. John had been living a lie, and now, so had she. The man she trusted had been hiding secrets from her. Dark, dangerous secrets. Angela took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. There was no turning back. She had to confront John, had to face the truth. But first, she had to survive. If you found Angela's story and want to dive deeper into her journey, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Join her in unraveling the mystery behind John's secret life. What will happen next? Stay tuned for the shocking conclusion.